What is up, besties, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Scotty Holiday. I'm a queer creator and a huge Star Wars nerd, so if you're into either one of those things, please consider liking, subscribing, and following me on social media at Scotty Holiday SW for all my latest Star Wars content. As a queer person, I've always felt some sort of connection with the character Cal Kestis that began with Jedi Fallen Order and continued throughout Jedi Battlescars and Jedi Survivor. And funny enough, I'm not the only queer person that feels this way. So many other queer fans have expressed their love, relatability, and even kinship that they share with the character of Cal, and that's exactly what I want to talk about in this video. This is a video I've wanted to create for such a long time, so I'm so excited to be finally sharing it with you. Starting off with his introduction into the Star Wars universe, Jedi Fallen Order tells the story of Cal Kestis, a Jedi Padawan and survivor of the Great Jedi Purge, in hiding 5 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith in Order 66. At the beginning of the game, Cal is finally discovered, hunted by the Inquisitorius, and joins up with the Stinger Mantis crew on a mission to try and rebuild the Jedi Order. Throughout Fallen Order, Cal is basically going through the stages of the coming out process. After years of trying to hide who he is, Cal eventually outs himself as a Force user as a last-ditch effort to save his friend at the beginning of the game. Throughout the story, we watch Cal learn to come to terms with his identity and accept himself for who he is and his place in the galaxy, along with the help of his found family. It's also interesting that the character Cal finds the deepest connection with is Merrin, who is actually the only confirmed queer character in the game, and we're definitely going to get more into her later. One of my favorite moments in Fallen Order happens in the tomb of Kujet on Dathomir. After retrieving the Astrium from the tomb, Cal and Merrin share a moment where he explains,
"After the Purge, I was alone for a long time. In hiding, I was scared that they'd find out who I was, or what I was.
And when Merrin asks him what changed, he tells her,
A very good friend of mine told me to go out and find my place in the galaxy.
And you listen?
Well, no, but life has this funny way of forcing you on the path forward anyway. Now here I am, or at least expected."
On the surface, the discussion between them establishes Cal and Merrin's connection and understanding that there is a way to move forward past their trauma, but digging deeper, it also proves to Merrin that she's not alone and that she can move forward in life while still honoring her past, and that everything will be okay in the end. She tells Cal,
Night Sisters and Jedi do not travel together, but survivors, we adapt.
and within these themes of the discussion, the game, and its universe, being a survivor can also be a parallel to the queer experience, including the coming out process, acceptance, and in some situations, anger and isolation. We as queer people are also survivors in a world that actively works against us, where so many try to keep us from being who we are or ultimately want us to not exist. Queer people are literally killed simply for existing. This is not to say that being a Jedi survivor in a post-Order 66 galaxy is exactly the same as being a queer person, but the similarities and parallels between the two are what make the game and Cal's journey so compelling to me and so many other queer people as well. The way Cal describes having to hide who he is and the fear of being found out, all while life continues to find ways to help him continue on his path of self-discovery and acceptance, is literally the coming out experience. Like being queer, being Force-sensitive is not a choice, but something you just are, and by the end of the game, we see Cal completely embrace who he is with a new sense of purpose, hope, and pride. No matter how hard the Empire tries to eradicate the Jedi, the Force always finds a way. The story of Fallen Order, its characters, and their relationships also revolve around the theme of found family, which is not only a huge staple of Star Wars, but a huge staple of the queer experience as well. All too often, we as queer people are met with a lack of acceptance from the people around us, and for some, even their own family, which is why found family is so important to us. A quote that comes to mind from RuPaul is,
"You know, we as gay people, we get to choose our family. You know, we get to choose the people that we're around. I am your family. We are a family here."
Along with Cal and Merrin, the other members of the Mantis crew include former Jedi Master Seer Junda and pilot Grease Dritus. And throughout the game, we see them start off as a group of survivors with a common goal that over time evolves into a family throughout the game's story. Like Cal and Merrin, Seer and Grease are also survivors in their own right, and this is initially what begins the bond between them. Focusing on Merrin specifically, Sam Maggs said the game's developer Respawn always envisioned Merrin as pansexual, and this is hinted at through dialogue in the game. At one point during their journey, Merrin has a conversation with Seer about burying a loved one and mentions another Night Sister named Ileana. When Seer asks Merrin about her, Merrin says,
We used to sneak out to the swamps and make potions together. We were so close. I thought when we were older we would be together. Instead, I closed her eyes and bundled her with the others.
Though this is about as far as it goes in Fallen Order, Merrin's queerness is further expanded upon in the tie-in novel Jedi Battle Scars. Jedi Battle Scars is set roughly 2 years after Fallen Order and continues the queer themes of Cal's journey, though this time less directly. Sam Maggs, the author of the book, begins with the statement, "For everyone who has gone out in the world and found their own family, we're never hiding who we really are ever again." This short statement really encompasses the experience that most, if not every queer person goes through at some point in their life, and though I can only assume, I believe she included it because as a fellow queer person, she saw the queerness in Cal's story as well. The story of Battle Scars revolves around a romantic relationship between Merrin and a new female character, Fred, who may or may not also be trans. But the book and the entire Mantis crew treat the relationship as nothing out of the ordinary. Seer explains it best when she tells Merrin, "We are all bound and connected by the Force. There's nothing unusual about two beings who had not previously met, forming a strong connection, falling in love at first sight even. That's the beauty of our galaxy. It's what makes everything we do worthwhile." Though this aspect of the story doesn't center around Cal directly, it's still another addition of queerness within his journey nonetheless. At one point in the novel, Grease asks Cal, "Would you have wanted to be born a Jedi, Cal, if you had the choice?" And before answering, the book explains, at one time Cal thought being a Jedi was the worst thing that had ever happened to him, that all he had ever wanted was to be something else, anything else, to be normal. But at Cal's very core, he knew being a Jedi was the best thing that had ever happened to him. He loved it, even when the galaxy told him he shouldn't, told him he should hide. For all the pain and all the fear, it brought him joy. Intentional or not, this is the queer experience. Sometimes it can feel like our lives would be so much easier if we weren't queer, if we were normal, but at the end of the day, being queer is who we are, and like Cal's connection to the Force, it's something we should be proud of and celebrate. The next installment of Cal's story comes in the game Jedi Survivor, which is set 5 years after Fallen Order and roughly 2 years after Battle Scars. Survivor is arguably the most overtly queer addition to Cal's journey thus far as well. The game introduces players to the Outer Rim planet Kobo and the town of Rambler's Reach. Kobo has just about everything from grasslands to rocky cliffs, forests, tar pits, and even waterfalls. The planet is also host to a colorful array of wildlife and even old structures and technology from the High Republic era. Coincidentally, Kobo is also home to a colorful cast of characters, and a lot of them also happen to be queer. One of the first vista points in the game when you arrive on Kobo has a literal rainbow in the background, and whether it was intentional or not, the rainbow serves as a welcome introduction to one of Star Wars' queerest planets. Kobo literally said, "Yay, right!" Throughout the game, Cal ends up meeting and forming relationships with the people of Kobo, with a lot of them ending up at Pyloon's Saloon, a local cantina that's run by none other than Grease Dritus himself. Pyloon's Saloon is basically a gay dive bar, complete with an eclectic aesthetic and local charm. The only thing that's really missing at this point is a drag show. It turns out Kobo is actually home to 6 canonically queer characters that Cal encounters along his journey. There's Ash Javi, a human who Cal recruits along with the droid DDEC to DJ at Pyloon's Saloon. Ash also happens to use they/them pronouns. Before coming to Kobo, they had a gig performing on Coruscant, but decided to leave all the glitz and glam behind to further their musical ambitions off-world in search of more organic sounds. Cal also meets Gulu and Guido, a human and a Trototome gay couple who were some of the first prospectors on Kobo, with the game's databank referring to them as lifelong partners. Through a Force echo, Cal learns how they first got together, explaining that the couple started dating simply because they disliked each other less than the rest of the prospectors on the planet. We also learn that these two old queens love gossiping and throwing shade at just about everyone they come across, including Cal. Gulu and Guido are also Star Wars' first confirmed on-screen gay couple. Another queer character Cal meets on Kobo is Moran. Moran is a male Mary Allen smuggler that Cal first encounters at Pyloon's Saloon. Moran eventually opens up to Cal about his illegal smuggling past and his ex-business partner Dreo, who he also had a romantic relationship with. The two split up after the creation of the Empire and the crackdown on illegal trade, with Dreo trying to convince Moran that they should leave the business together. But over time, Cal is able to convince Moran to reach out to Dreo after all their years apart. Last but not least, we have Winnie Eris and Zig Souza. Zig is a human mechanic and lifetime Kobo local, and Winnie, an alien interior designer from Coruscant, encounter Cal within Kobo's Viscid Bog. After Cal helps Winnie with her missing datapad, she and Zig return to Rambler's Reach, deciding to fix up the outpost together, eventually developing romantic feelings for one another. This makes Winnie and Zig our second confirmed on-screen sapphic couple in Star Wars. I also want to point out Marin's first trip to Kobo and meeting with Mosey. After landing on the planet, Mosey and Marin share a moment where Marin compliments Mosey on the axe she's carrying.
Nice axe.
Name's Mosey.
Marin.
All right.
I don't know about y'all, but I definitely felt like Marin was flirting with her. Let me know what you think about that in the comments, or if you thought they were flirting as well. There's just so much I enjoy about Kobo and its inclusion in Jedi Survivor, but I think my favorite part about the planet is just how queer it really is. One of the game's main villains, Dagan Gera, is also played by the openly queer actor Cody Fern, which just adds to the queerness of it all. All of these characters hold a place within this part of Cal's journey and the experiences they have together. I also love how normalized queerness is, not only within Cal's journey, but in the Star Wars galaxy in general. The thing about these characters is they're not written as token gay characters, they're just characters that also happen to be queer. So many people want to complain about the addition of queer characters in Star Wars, calling it an agenda or woke, but in reality, in a galaxy of so many different cultures and species, there's no way queerness wouldn't and doesn't exist. Funny enough, that's actually a big reason why Cameron Monaghan, the actor behind Cal Kestis, was interested in playing another character, Ian Gallagher, a gay character in the show Shameless as well. Though Cameron identifies as straight, he was interested in playing the character because even though Ian was gay, he wasn't a character defined by his sexuality. This is just another reason why queer people love Cal Kestis. They love Cameron's portrayal as Ian Gallagher, and Cameron is also Cal, so how could you not love him? Even though Cal isn't canonically queer, queer themes and queerness in general have played such a large role within his journey thus far, and that's one of the main reasons why I love and feel so connected with him as a character. By the end of Jedi Survivor, we see Cal and Marin begin a romantic relationship together, and as much as I would love for him to be canonically bi or pan as well, one thing is for sure, Cal Kestis is an ally. So what do you think of this queerness in Cal's journey thus far, and how do you think it'll be expanded on in his future? Let me know down in the comments below or join my Discord to continue the conversation there. Make sure to like, subscribe, and consider following me on social media at Scotty Holiday SW for all my latest Star Wars content. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.